Apologies for that. Good morning. Yeah, I was having a problem with the mic for some reason. This mic wasn't working. I didn't want to do it through the MacBook's mic because I'd sound all echoey and weird. So I hope you don't mind me taking a moment of your time to just reset the stream and get crystal clear, high quality audio for you. I hope it's working now. In terms of this, yeah, I can see myself on the YouTube stuff now. So good morning, everyone. I hope you're all keeping well. This is a Thursday stream, and just because I want to say this because it's difficult to keep track of the days. To be honest, it feels like that week before you sort of between Christmas and New Year, just relentless. You know, like things are happening, but nothing really changes. Feels a bit like that. So yeah, we're gonna do some marketing mix in different contexts today, basically. So marketing decisions and things like that. We're going to talk about some of the external things. But we are nearly through the spec, ladies and gents. We are seriously close to finishing. In which case, then, we're going to start again. We're going to start from the start spec. I'm going to do a couple of different videos, probably in between. Still going to keep doing the streaming every day at 10. Because I think it's important for you. And I think it's important for me. Most importantly me, just to give me some structure to my day, as I've talked about on the stream a couple of times now. I do think it's really important, and I think that when this thing keeps going, people might be seeing it as a bit of a holiday now and enjoying, playing on their Xbox or whatever it is that they do. But I think the longer it goes on, the more bored we're going to get and the more need for structure we're going to have. And this is providing me with some structure, which is good. Although it is annoying when, I'm still in bed at, 10 to 10 and thinking, I'm not. But it's still annoying when you're thinking, oh, I better go and get up for that. And, it's therapy, isn't it, at the end of the day? So, as I said, I hope it's been useful for you anyway and continuing to be useful. We're going to start right from the start again of the spec very, very soon. But in the meantime, if anybody has any specific videos that they like, any specific things that they want me to go over in terms of, obviously, I'm going to go over everything again in terms of the spec and things like this, but any individual videos that you would like, any specific things, or well, what about, top 10 exam tips, or what about blah blah blah. If you've got any ideas, throw them over, because I'm running dry already, to be honest, in terms of ideas. So if you've got any ideas, that would be wonderful. Send them over. I'll do my best to do them. Other than Mr. Businessman's Midweek Madness. I don't know if you saw that this week, but if you didn't, go on to my YouTube channel and have a look at some of the weird stuff I've been putting up, because I want to cater for two audiences here, really. I want to cater for, yourselves, students who need to get through business materials, but I also want to get through the, people who are interested in seeing a business teacher slowly losing his mind sort of demographic, which is hopefully less severe, but I do try and cater for multiple demographics. Anyway, enough of me jabbering on. Let's get on with the stream. Okay, so we're going to get straight into it today with some marketing mix. In different contexts. Now, it's not a massive one, this one. It's more about what we're actually speaking about than the actual longness of this, if this makes sense. So, in your live packs that you've got, if you've got the pack, if you've not got the pack, then it's going to be a lot harder for you today, because there's a lot of stuff that's already written up for you, and there's a lot of activities that you can do. So, I'm not going to really talk you through the activities as much as I'm just going to talk about it generally, and then you're going to have the opportunity to go away and do it. But feel free, I'd expect people to be doing the activities as we go. It makes it easier for you. But if you want to do them afterwards, or if you've not got access to the pack, then that'd be fine. All right. So here we go. First things first, let's have a look at our learning objectives. So learning objectives today are understand the importance of global marketing and global brands, explain the marketing mix, how the marketing mix will differ in different contexts, including local, national or global markets, goods and services, size of the business, niche or mass marketing, and market structure. So it's a lot of revision today, because we're going to go over these. The next couple of videos in the over the next couple of weeks are going to be recapping all these different things that we talked about right at the start of the course: market structures, global markets, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be pretty useful for you. And evaluate the marketing mix in different contexts. That thing again, constantly trying to evaluate and things like that. But let's start off really, really quickly. What is global marketing? So all I want you to do is jig the stuff around and give me a definition for it. Okay. I'll give you a moment or two. Just have a go. And then we will go through it. I should have got myself a drink. I don't think. Ah, well. So, let's jump to it. Okay, so this is it. So it's the whole process of planning, producing, placing, and promoting a company's product in a worldwide market. All right. Now, it's not just selling abroad. It's important, this one. Okay. So let's just get this out of the way. Let's just have a quick discussion about what global marketing is. So global marketing is adjusting your marketing techniques to apply to different contexts. Now, we talked about a thing in the last stream called localization. Localization is when you get your products to be more specific to the audience that you are currently in, so the market you're currently working in. So let's say that you're in a British market, then you're going to be looking at what part of Britain. Well, first of all, let's say we're going to bring out a brand new product, right? And we say, right, well, what do we want to do? It's who's it aimed at? And we say, well, it's aimed at the the average business person, all right, which I know is very broad, but let's say it's the average business person. They're on about 35 to 45 grand a year. Okay, right. So the average business person. The first thing that I'd be thinking of, aside from the type of product and the product feat, the things which offend people, the things which we're all right to have a bit of a jab at, what's acceptable in British society. And a lot of other people don't. A lot of other people from other countries will have slightly different versions of the same thing. So it's really important at that point to stop what we're doing and think, right, okay, maybe we need to talk to someone who's got more experience in this industry, in this market, in this country than we do. So what companies will do is they will get marketing consultants that come from different countries to come and talk to them and advise them on how to better satisfy the demand for that product or service in that market, to talk about these unspoken things, these cultural norms that it's so important not to get wrong, because if you get it wrong, you will massively affect the chances of success. You could end up upsetting people, and in these days of social media, when it's so important to, you can't get away with anything now, can you? Because it'll automatically be all over social media immediately. It's really, really important that we understand these social norms and don't fall at them. It used to be the case of before social media and before the internet and that, you could make a little faux pas. It wouldn't be the end of the world. If people make silly mistakes and things like that. You can make small mistakes with things, but you might end up offending someone. So global marketing isn't just about selling your products abroad. It's about localizing the market. It's about localizing the marketing. All right. And when we localize something and we make it specific to this market, if it's a global market that we're going for, we call it glocalization, which is global localization, and we change the product slightly to better satisfy the needs of that market. Okay, so let's say we have someone like McDonald's. They do globalization brilliantly. They go over to foreign markets. They find out a lot about them, and then they make their products slightly different. Now, they don't change the Big Mac and stuff like that, but can you think of anywhere where they would change the Big Mac? Because there are countries where they would change it. And the answer is, imagine if there was a Muslim country. They don't eat pork. So, I know that, or beef in that regard, I'm not sure which one it is now, but I'm pretty sure that Muslims don't eat pork, and I think, is it Jewish people don't eat beef, or is it the other way around? I'm sorry, I'm not up to date with these. This is the problem. This is the point. That's not my speciality. That's not my area of specialism. So, that's why I would look to someone who is more skilled and more thingy than the cats here. Go on. Go on. I would look to someone who's more who has more speciality in this one. India, yeah. So in India, McDonald's in India don't sell beef. Yeah, okay. So and there is cultural appropriation, there's cultural acceptance in that regard. But that's my point. Like I'm not employed to know that. Like at the end of the day, like it's important to understand certain things, but you will get consultants who will come in who will know more about that and go in. All right, well, in different countries they don't eat different things, or there would be this and thing. So you wouldn't sell the Big Mac in India because they would do a chicken Big Mac or something like that, and that would be their attempt at globalization. Still able to sell the Big Mac product, but not sell the beef because it's not culturally acceptable at the time. Okay, not only the product, but the marketing is big. In terms of what's acceptable on TV, because we have this hypersexualized thing on British. Sort of marketing. It's obscene. Have a look at marketing in this country. You probably don't realise how bad it's got, but when you look round, there's half-naked women and half-naked men on everything. It's not appropriate in a lot of countries. What we get away with in this country, it's not appropriate. And it is a bit weird when you think there's lots of kids walking around and there's bloody, adverts for stuff all over the place. And I'm not talking about the, the hypersexualised ones of, about sexualized products. I'm talking about like things like bloody shampoo, like some half-naked woman shampooing her hair on TV. It's not appropriate, and that will be on children's TV, like in terms of like an advert or something. It's a bit weird. So we do get away with it a lot in this country. We do have very broad, very liberal interpretations of stuff like that. So, but be aware of the expectations and things like that. Another one for you to have a little go at. So much easier on this one. What do you reckon? So global brands. Okay, let's have a little look. So global brands are brands that are recognised throughout the world. There's a little task in your books about them, about different brands, about different things. But let's have a little chat about a few of them, just so that we've got them. So first of all, IKEA. All right, is IKEA a global brand? Yes, it is. Where did it originally come from? Shout out if you know it. Sweden. And they use that as the USP to an example. They use it as competitive advantage. They use the fact that from Sweden, and they make a big thing of it. They don't try and hide it. IKEA, they like to refer to it as, don't they? And IKEA is an interesting one because they've managed to carve out a sort of a market which is based on not only furniture and flat pack furniture, because they started this whole flat pack furniture craze thing along with MFI when it was still around, and then. They've also managed to make themselves famous because of their meatballs, haven't they? Which I'm not going to start a fight about this, but I've never really been that much of a fan of. I thought they're okay, but note to shout about. I know everyone goes going, oh, IKEA meatballs, oh yeah, that's all great, that's fine. Who cares? Argos. Is Argos a global brand? Okay. No, it isn't. Argos isn't. It's the UK and Republic of Ireland Argos. So it's not a global brand. Just the UK and the Republic of Ireland. Okay. So we've got obviously the UK is the origin in that. Is Dyson a global brand? Well, this was an interesting one because when we wrote the packs, Dyson wasn't a global brand, and yet it has become a global brand since this happened because we have. Dyson changed to, I'm sure they moved to China recently. It was either China or Hong Kong. Hopefully not Hong Kong because of how much crazy stuff's been going on, but I think it was China they moved to recently. That the fact that they've moved over there and they're doing more things overseas. They've been. I remember I've been seeing since this Corona things kicked off as well. Dyson have been getting involved with ventilators and stuff like that as well. I think that they do have some kind of technology that works well with that. Don't know whether they have a specific product or whether they've made it recently, but I know that the Americans have been talking to Dyson as well. So it wasn't a global brand. It was a UK brand, but it became global because it's, the reach of that brand now. What about Tesco? Is Tesco a global brand? Yes, it is. they are a global brand because they've tried successfully and failed multiple times to get into global markets in terms of different countries' supermarkets. Um, they tried to crack America, it didn't work. It was called Fresh and Easy when they tried to crack America, it just didn't work. They said it was too clinical. Um, and then they've also tried to crack a range of different countries, which just didn't work, and it's been very expensive for them. But they have been moving into a variety of countries. So Tesco is a global brand at this point, but they originated in the UK, didn't they? Marks and Spencers. Is there any Marks and Spencers? Now, Marks and Spencers isn't a global brand, but there is a Marks and Spencers in Hong Kong because I've seen it, because I went. So, although they're not a global brand in terms of like they're not all over the place, they are in Hong Kong, and I think the reason they were in Hong Kong was because the fact that Hong Kong was kind of like a smaller version of Britain at the time. When I went a couple of years ago, it was before they started trying to get back in, like China started trying to take over them and stuff like that again. So it was kind of like it was weird when you go to Hong Kong. They all drive on the the left side of the road, the correct side of the road, which is very strange to see. It's kind of like when you go into Manchester on the motorway, on the sort of dual carriageway. You could be in Hong Kong. That's how similar it is in some parts. It's a very strange city, very very cool city, one of the coolest places I've ever been. But yeah, strange place because it's very very British, very very Britannised, if we say. So I wouldn't say they are because they're a UK brand, but there are strange situations where these one-off shops are in foreign countries, and there was at Marks and Spencer's in Hong Kong because I went. Nice little bit of home. What about Renault? Yeah, Renault is obviously a French company, but they are a global company now. Probably owned by one of the main ones. Audi and people like that own everyone now anyway, don't they? General Motors. And Tata, if you don't know Tata Steel, there was a big thing about it. Yes, they are a global brand, Indian company originally. So yeah, it was a range of different brands, range of different things, just to sort of draw your attention to them. All right, let's move on. So, what factors have led to an increase in global marketing and global brands? So, obviously in pairs, we would do this in class if you were in pairs, but if you can't, that's okay. If there's anyone there you can have a little chat about it with, you can pause the stream, have a little chat. Let's have a think about these though. So in pairs, what has led to an increase in global marketing and global brands? Now, trading blocks. Trading blocks is an important one because of Brexit and because of all the stuff that we've been going through. Now, I've been through in class crazy amounts of Brexit. I'll probably do a separate stream on Brexit at some point, and you don't, if you're bored of hearing me talk about it, that's totally fine. But trading blocks are really important, and the connection between companies and countries is a really important one. As these trading blocks have become more of a thing, and there's been different ones throughout history as well. It's not just the EU. There are also, the fact the United States of America is a trading block, isn't it? Because all those countries, that's the equivalent of like 50 countries. All getting together, isn't it, and being one big country, but ultimately it's still individual states, individual countries, really, that have their own little thing. I think people don't really understand the scope of America. It's like saying how big is Russia. It's absolutely massive. The United States of America is a big place. And they have considerably different cultural differences in different parts of America than they would in any other place. Somewhere in Texas would be completely different lifestyle, different culture to LA, for example. So you get completely different things in, although it's technically the same country, there are things. So, yeah, trading blocks have made a big thing. Obviously, we've been talking about the EU and the difference between, trading inside and outside. We've also got the World Health Organization. That's on my mind, isn't it? The World Trading Organization. Is that what it's called? World Trade Organization, yeah. I've not heard from them a bit. That shows, doesn't it? The World Trade Organization's out of my head because the World Health Organization is in it. But yeah, we do have these sort of connections to other people and agreements and things like that. So it's made it easier to get made it easier to get stuff out there. Especially when we're in the EU, it's much easier to get information and to get brands out there without tariffs and things like that. If there is tariffs, it makes it a hell of a lot more expensive to trade. Now, it's not to say you can't, but if you remember, if you've ever bought anything off eBay from America, you have to pay loads of tax. It makes it so it's not viable doing, and that's the point of the tariffs. It's to stop you buying. America do not like selling to America. Sorry, America likes selling to America. They don't like selling to Britain. That's why they tariff us really strongly. If we've got this amazing deal that we've got with them that we're supposed to have, then that will mean that we'll have lower tariffs that will encourage us to buy from them. Does that make sense? So we can just control it with tax, really. Improve communication, the internet, email, streaming, all these different ways that we can communicate with each other now, mobile phones and the like. Everyone's carrying a supercomputer around with them, and it's much easier to communicate and much easier to run the business. So you will have businesses that have departments in different countries where it will stop here. Say it was me, I'll work from 7 in the morning till 5 at night, and then at 5 at night I will switch over to another country who will just be getting up and just thinking, oh, right, okay, well, it's about 7 o'clock there, so I pass my work on, and then when they've finished, they pass it on to a third one, and maybe a fourth one, and then by the time I come back in the morning, we've had essentially another 3 days, another 2 days, 3 days worth of work, because we're passing the work all the way around the world. And it's amazing. Companies do this all the time now. So you're getting sort of 24-hour coverage, which is good for consumers, but good for getting work done as well. Brilliant work, brilliant for efficiencies and things like that. Improved transport, yeah. Remember if you think about all the different things that we'd done sort of previous to this, before we had, cars and planes and boats and things like that, the better transport. But think about things like the Eurostar and, faster transport, cleaner transport. All that has made it so much more so much easier for countries to trade with each other and for companies to trade with each other and things like that. So massive opportunities now. And especially, like, if you want to sell to a global market now, set up an eBay business. You can sell to a global market today. All you've got to do, as I said, this isn't sponsored by eBay today, but I'm so impressed with the new way that eBay have been doing their what's it called? Their postage and stuff. Have you seen this now? It used to be that was the annoying thing about eBay, was the fact that you had to do all this sort of messing about with the postage after you did it, but it's really simple now. All you do is literally send it, put it through, instead of putting it through Royal Mail or anything like that, you just put as an option, you put it through eBay as a courier, and then you literally go to like Spar or somewhere where you pick it up. They will print the label for you. You give them the box, they put the label on it for you, and that's it, done. You don't need to worry about it, and they tell you how much postage you have to do, and that's all done automatically. That's amazing. Fantastic. What a brilliant way. I sold a couple of books and stuff on eBay recently, and I wouldn't have bothered, but it was so easy that it made me like, oh yeah, all right then. That stuff that you've got hanging about in your house. It's so easy to use eBay. Go and do it. You can get out to a global market. It's so easier. And growth of multinational companies as well. Just in general, these big companies that have been sort of popping up and sort of having a big effect, because once you can see your competitors doing big things, you might want a bit of that market as well. All right. So we've got a table in your thing as well, a little thing that's already pre-established with local versus sort of regional or national. On the first one, it's Domino's versus the takeaway, but we could talk about a range of different things. Product, place, price, promotion, though. Let's have a think about that, because remember, we're talking about global marketing. It's important not to just talk about globalization, but talk about marketing. We've got to think about product, place, price, promotion. What are the benefits and drawbacks for customers of local versus global? Now, there are some big benefits in terms of local businesses. Don't underestimate the power of local, because look at the minute, we're having problems with our supply chains in this country because of the disruption of external influence, and we can rely on local businesses, local farms, local things to be able to help us out. The problem is, if society is so vast and so what's the best word? Saturated. That we can't actually, especially being an island ourselves, it's difficult to not rely on global influence now. It's difficult not to. But if you think about it, if we were to have local takeaways, are they likely to be more expensive or less expensive than, say, regional takeaways? So if we talked about Domino's and a local takeaway, for example, are they likely to be more expensive? Well, you could argue it either way, and this is what I want you to be thinking about with your analysis, with your evaluation. So if we think about our Domino's, right? Domino's pizza is extremely expensive pizza. I had one the other day, and they are good, aren't they? But it's expensive. It's ludicrously expensive, actually. But why is it so expensive? Well, one, because they've got loads of shareholders, and they've got to make a profit margin on it, and they want to make good profit. So that's first and foremost, isn't it? Secondly, the most important thing as well is think of the cost of running Domino's as a company. It will be a hell of a lot more expensive for Domino's to run the company, and it is a franchise model, so it's individual companies. But even so, the employee, the owner of the franchise is going to be paying the franchise fee, and that's going to be taken into account as well. So all the things have got to be paid for. Whereas if you're just a local takeaway that has, one place, one local chippy. All your cost is going to be rent, you're going to have business rates, you're going to have insurance, you're going to have wages, the same stuff that you would usually have, but it's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper in real terms to be able to do it. Problem with takeaways, though, in terms of local takeaways, is you will nowhere near be able to sell as much, or to be able to attract the kind of stuff that Domino's do. Domino's are this really strong brand. If you're a local takeaway, you won't be able to attract the kind of what's the word, like national presence that Domino's can, and that's one of the big benefits for them. So I want you to go through product, place, price, promotion for these and have a look at the benefits and drawbacks of them, but be thinking about, right, is it more expensive? Is it cheaper to consumers? Is it more? What about dealing with suppliers? Who would have the bigger hand? Obviously, or hopefully obviously, using economies of scale, purchasing economies, Domino's would be able to buy everything really, really cheap. They'll be able to maintain standards a lot easier than local takeaways. Let's say a local takeaway tried to make 2 or 3 different branches, but locally. So we had a chippy that decided to do, 2 or 3 around Preston or through Manchester or whatever it was. It would be increasingly difficult to maintain standards. If you Domino's, it's increasingly easy to maintain standards because there is an expectation from the day you sell the franchise and the franchisee comes on knowing what the Domino's way is, if that makes sense. What about promotion? Okay, a lot more expensive. What is it going to be, above the line or below the line? Do you remember this one where we talked about the other day? So above the line, if you remember, really, really obvious advertising. It's going to be TV. It's going to be expensive stuff. Below the line is going to be your PR and that kind of stuff. Your direct selling. What's your local takeaway likely to do? Well, they're likely to do the below the line, aren't they? They're likely to go with the more expensive. They're likely to not do TV advertisement or radio advertisement and stuff like that. It tends to be just around where it is. Social media now, gives them a platform and things like that. But Domino's are going to be, quite a lot more dominant in that market, aren't they? Okay. So, with so many different classifications of businesses and with the marketing mix differing, it depends on the different contexts of it. So it's important too, and I know I keep saying it, but I will keep saying it until the cows come home. Significance. I've just thought. Just give me one second. Sorry about that. The bin men are here. And I forgot to put the bin out, but my wife's done it, so it's okay. I was just worried then. I thought, well, they're only coming every 2 weeks, aren't they? And the tip's shot. So it's it would have been a bit annoying, so I've just checked. Everything's fine. So it depends on various contexts. I'm going to keep saying it, as I said. Keep evaluating. Think about the significance to the situation. All right, what's important to the situation? What's important in a small local one versus a big one? The pack looks at how and why these vary in different markets and contexts, like we talked about. But I want you to be looking at the justification for stuff. That's the most important one for this, and it is heavily based on the pack. Today's stream it is. But it is important to use those packs and make good use of them because they're dead useful. So we talked a little bit about dominoes and stuff like that, but what about these ones then? What about goods and services? So marketing decision will also vary depending on whether the business is selling a good or a service. The following P's decide to whether the decision is good or more appropriate for a car than a car insurance. So if we have a look at product, place, price, promotion, and we have a look at the different ones. Can we say whether it would be better or worse for a good or a service? So don't forget, it's not just a good or a service in this country, it's a good or a service abroad as well. So it gives you lots of different things. And remember, in that third exam, you're going to be talking a lot about, you're going to have loads of a case study, a big case study to talk about, things like that. This is a massive opportunity for you to just pick up some marks and go, oh, actually, okay. So what do you think? So product, place, price, promotion, let's have a think. If we were to say then, for car insurance, if we were to say that we were going with a sort of below the line approach. So let's have a think. So would it be appropriate for a below the line marketing for car insurance? Well, no, because how will anybody know about it? You're not going to do PR, are you? You're not going to do any of that. You're going to need to get the word out about your marketing stuff. It would be much better above the line. It would be better to get on comparison websites. It'd be better to do, TV advertising, stuff like that. And especially to a foreign market, excuse me, it's going to be even more important to be able to make sure that your product, place, price, promotion is concrete and stuff like that. Let's have a think about it for the same one. What about your car? Well, yeah, below the line for that would be more applicable, wouldn't it? Because have you seen any of the people? Sometimes they're in like shopping centres and stuff like that. They'll have competitions and things. But you will also have... you can go and sit in it. You can go and sit in the car, and you can go and touch the car. You'd have places like Evans Show and places like that are trying to do their own things about advertising these cars as well as second-hand cars or things like that. So we have a range of different things. You've got to think though: product, place, price, promotion. Is it applicable to a foreign market? Is it applicable to a home market, but also is it applicable to a service or a product? It's really important that we justify whatever we're saying, and that's one of the beautiful things about business is the fact that we can justify things and you can pick up marks that you wouldn't be able to in other situations, other subjects, because you can justify things in the exam and hopefully pick up some marks if it's justification. Because it says in the exam, when you're marking exams, it always says credit any relevant information. So that's one of the few things, one of the big benefits of doing this course is the fact that you do have that. But it's important as well then that you understand that you need to justify everything that you're talking about. Okay, so... complete the gaps. We've got a couple of different things like that. As I said, stop the stream, pause the stream. I'm going to carry on with this. But what decision is the most important with these? I'm going to move on because I want to talk to you a little bit about an exam question. We're going to have a little look at one of them. There's a bit of a change today. So I want to get on to that. So let's have a little look. One of the other things as well, which we haven't talked a little bit about for a little bit, but I just wanted to drag your memory on, is oligopoly or monopolistic competition or monopolies. All right, so it's different market structures, different things which are affecting that market. So why would firms in an oligopoly require a much more differentiated product than monopolistic competition? Now, monopolistic competition, if you remember, is when we compete with people, and there's lots of small companies that are competing with each other, and they tend to differentiate themselves on price, but they try to get some kind of branding to differentiate themselves because there's no other really way, homogenous goods and things like that. So monopolistic competition is the one that everybody forgets about, but it's really important to remember what monopolistic competition is. Monopolistic isn't a monopoly. It's where you've got lots and lots of small companies that are competing with each other, but trying to differentiate themselves in terms of brand or things like that. It's difficult to differentiate yourself, but that's what we do. So why would firms in an oligopoly require this? Well, because monopolistic competition tend to sell homogenous goods. It tends to be that they don't sort of there's no other way of doing it. They don't. They can't really compete in terms of price and things like that. So it says on here, if you had an oligopoly, then they would be able to compete. They would be able to compete on price if they wanted to, but they would have to make that product significantly different to be able to get people on board. Okay, so just to draw yourself back to those, I know we haven't talked about them in a bit, and as I said, it might be sort of the cobwebs in your mind, but have a think about it. Right, so let's just recap them. Okay, so we've got monopolies. Okay, do you remember monopolies? Monopolies are where you've got one dominant force in that industry. Okay, so somewhere you can't really choose who you go to, you can't really choose who you buy from because you've got one dominant force in that market. Not really done in the UK, although technically we do have monopolies because it's supposed to be anything over 25% of the market. Competition and Mergers Authority, the CMA, will try and break things up. Second one, oligopolies like this is we could have duopolies. Duopolies are two big ones. Oligopolies are a few big competitors, and then we get monopolistic competition, which is a lot more, and the more we do, the more we go over from, right, well, if you're going to be an oligopoly, you can't just be exactly the same. Look at the supermarket industry. How do they differentiate themselves? Well, they do it in terms of like product offerings to an extent, in terms of like Tesco have a hairdressing bit, they have a phone shop and things like that. They don't really tend to differentiate in terms of actual products. There are a few things that you might be able to get from certain ones, but supermarkets find it difficult to differentiate themselves significantly, but they do it with the branding to an extent, don't they? So in a monopolistic competition market, why is above the line promotion so important? Because we've got homogenous products, because we're trying to sell against each other all the time. So it's very difficult to sort of pull yourself away. There's no point in doing loads of below the line because no one's going to be interested in that. People won't even know about your below the line stuff. So you're going to have loads and loads of competition as well. So you need to get your name out there. You need to be competing with people. You need to be shouting about it, essentially. And it says justify the above decisions for a monopoly as well. Each one of the decisions that we make, we have to be constantly justifying the situation and saying, right, okay, is it important for this business to be seen to be doing this? Is it important in this context? It's constantly bringing you back to that AO4, okay, of using the context of the business. Okay, now I know this isn't the easiest one to remember because, as I said, it might sound a little bit like gobbledygook if you haven't got the pack. For those of you who have got the packs, it will sound a lot more reasonable because you've got the packs. So I apologise for that because I've not really made it very streamable, this one today, because I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this. But hopefully you've been able to follow through the pack and sort of follow what I'm talking about. But I wanted to spend a little bit of time today because we've not really done this on stream. Is going through an exam question, and it seems a brilliant one to do because we've got this one here. So we've got the. I'm going to show you the case study in a second so that you can have a look at it. But most people have got it in the packs anyway. So it says discuss the likely decisions that Anghard will make, or I think it says supposed to be Anglesey, that will make regarding. Oh no. That might be a name, Angarad, regarding the marketing mix. So let me grab this pack and I'm going to put it on the screen for you, so you've got so you can see it as well. Yeah, Angarad. Sorry, no, that's someone's name apparently. I've never heard of that one before, but yeah. Okay, we're going to have a little look and I will show you. What it is. Here we are. So 4 years ago, 56-year-old former midwife Angarad Holmes moved back to her roots in Anglesey after inheriting the rundown farm that had been in her family since 1806. Today, Angarad has turned the 70-acre God, there's some weird words in this one. Farm into a booming organic business, rearing hens and making jams. Angarad said, in this niche market, people really need to know where their food comes from and how it is farmed. She launched her brand of jams last August on the Anglesey farm with sellout results. Her latest product is butter made from Anglesey milk and sea salt. Discuss the likely decisions that Angarad will make regarding her marketing mix. Now, it's important that we have a little look through this, so let's break it down together. So it says, Discuss the likely decisions that Angarad will make regarding her marketing mix. So let's first of all, product, place, price, promotion. On this one, even if we didn't know, discuss is going to be an AO3, isn't it? Because we've got that sort of explanation side of things. So with this one, we're looking at a little bit of... Well, we're going to need some AO1, we're going to need some AO2, we're going to need some AO3. We're not going to need AO4 because there's no evaluation in that. Discuss the likely decisions that are made. So it's kind of an explanation kind of thing, isn't it? So AO1, AO2, AO3, that's what I'd be thinking was in this if I was doing this in an exam. We need to break it down. So we've got 8 marks and we've got 2 marks for each P then, haven't we? Product, place, price, promotion. Remember, there are more P's, but we haven't gone into them yet. So, let's think about product. Well, what has she done about her product? Well, she said she's going for kind of a niche market, isn't she, with this one? She's going for people who are into homegrown, fresh farmyard sort of stuff for a British market made by British farmers. That's what she's going, because she's making a point of this Anglesey milk. And that's a big point. So she's going for a niche market. So the product is very, very differentiated. The competitive advantage comes from the fact that it is a homegrown Anglesey milk product. All right. And she's also made things like jams and things like that, hasn't she? So the product is going to be based on that niche market in terms of that sort of doing... sort of shouting about it. So if you're going to do sort of marketing, you might be looking at below the line because she's got this farm. It might be better to do below the line because you've got sort of a local market. But if you're going to do above the line, you could argue that above the line might be better because although it's going to be more expensive, you can use the Britishness of it to sell to other parts of Britain as well. Does that make sense? I wouldn't suggest she goes with a global market in this one, just because it's only 4 years old, this company probably isn't ready to take that big step yet. But then again, if you can justify in that argument that you should, then that's fine. Second one, so price. What should she be doing with her price in this one? So the marketing decisions on price. Well, I'd be looking at kind of a premium. I'd be looking at some kind of premium. I wouldn't be putting... because it's a niche market, you can charge a premium to an extent. I would be looking at putting... going above and beyond whoever the jam industry is ruled by, off the top of my head. At sort of putting a little bit of higher than just any other brand that you would be able to buy, because you can say, well, it's a fresh one, it's one of them. Place. Now, this is a distribution one. Now, would it be better for her to get direct to consumer? Would you be dealing with any agents? Would you be dealing with any brokers? Would you be dealing with supermarkets, that kind of stuff? It can pump out quite a lot, but it's not going to be enough for a global reach, is it? It's not going to be enough for a national reach even. So maybe looking at that local market might be a better idea. And then promotion. We've got the product, price. Promotion, we'd be looking at, as I said, looking at local stuff perhaps to begin with, and then trying to get the information out to that sort of global market. I would be working with my intermediaries though, working with my supermarket friends, working with my various different connections to be able to get the word out there. Let's have a little look then in terms of this. So these are just a couple of notes that we made based on it, and you're very welcome to use these in your own writing. And these are the things which we sort of did. If it'll let me, will it let me? Let's see. Just 1 second. I'm just moving stuff about a little bit. I don't know why this is being so silly. There we go. Okay, so like we said, niche market. So they'll likely be able to charge that premium price. Market orientated. That was one thing we didn't talk about, actually. Market orientated. So it's going to be very based on market orientation, isn't it? What is our competitors doing? What are other people selling? What are the jam manufacturers doing? What are other butter manufacturers doing? And things like that. We won't be basing it on our own products and putting a small percentage on. Instead, we'll be looking at what can we get away with, actually. Okay. Product USP is very important. The USP will come from the product, like we said. It'll come from the fact it's Anglesey, it's fact that it's made British and people like that. It's completely different from the sort of obvious Morrison's, Tesco ones, which could be from anywhere. Place is important to limit the places that it's sold, retain that niche, but we could potentially look at least a local market to begin with. In terms of looking at not necessarily, you could sell it on physical local markets, but if we went with the supermarkets, we could sell it on a local basis and then look at maybe getting further on. Also, that is something I didn't mention, which is a fair point. What about you? Which supermarkets you're going to talk about? What about which supermarkets you're going to aim at? Because you might want to say, well, actually, I want to aim at Waitrose and Marks and Spencers rather than Tesco's, because it's a higher brand. So I want to maintain that that sort of how people see my brand. It's an important thing, isn't it? And it says, below the line, likely to have limited capital. It needs to be specific because it's only 4 years old. But if we were going to go for that more, if we wanted to push it further, as I said, I don't know how much 70 acre does. It's difficult, that one, because is that a lot? 70 acres sounds like a lot, but even so, whatever you're talking about in these, as long as you justify it, why you're talking about it, of saying, well, look, I think you should be able to do this, but in the short term versus the long term, this. But remember, don't overcomplicate. It's an 8 marker. It just wants 4 different points: product, place, price, promotion. That's all they wanted from you. And as long as you can give consistent stuff to each of them, then there is no reason why you can't get all the marks for this one. It's not a hard question. I wouldn't say that this one is. Okay, so bit of a weird one, that one. As I said, because it's so heavily based on the pack. If it was in class, it'd be much easier to teach that, because we would have the packs and I could go through individual things with you, individual packs and stuff. And there's a lot of just you doing you, essentially, you doing your own stuff in that one. So it might come across a little bit odd if you've not got the pack to hand. I would suggest using the pack as you go along to be able to do it. Now, there's very few other ones that are like that, to be honest, in terms of so heavily based on the pack. So it's good. But I hope that little bit of look at an exam question at the end has been pretty useful for you anyway. Not the most in-depth bit of the spec, to be honest, but it does give us an opportunity to spend a little bit more time just at the end of the stream today, having a look at the news just for 5 minutes, if you're willing to join me for that, and let's have a little look at what's going on in the world, and then we'll be ready to go. Okay, so Have I messed this up a bit? Let me just see. Don't know why it's doing that. I think I might have moved it a bit or something. And 1 second. Here we go. See, this is live editing for you there. Live, unedited editing of my stream. Impressive, isn't it? Are you impressed? You should be. Okay, so let's have a little look. Now you can see what I can see, which is good. Let's have a little look at what's going on in the world. All right. Now let's give it a little refresh as well, because we'll get right up to date with stuff. It's been really useful for this, because I don't spend that much time looking at the news anyway, so I get to keep up to date with these kind of stuff as well. So testing will unlock coronavirus puzzle. PM says it comes after it was revealed only 2,000 out of 500,000 frontline NHS workers in England have been tested. We don't want to talk too much about coronavirus though, because it's depressing, isn't it? Should more of us wear face masks? Let's have a look at that one then. Actually, let's have a look at that one, because people were saying about this, weren't they? And they were saying it wasn't useful. So, should more of us... the question has been assessed by the panel of advisors. Only people who are sick and show symptoms should wear masks. It's because they're saying it doesn't work. Coronavirus can get through it, so it's no use. That's what I thought it was anyway. So, is there anything else more impressive there? Let's have a look at the business news. See what's going on. Interest-free overdraft plan for bank customers. Now, this will be an interesting one. Oh no! Well, we'll have a look at another one in a second. Okay, let's have a look at this one first. So it says people struggling financially amid the coronavirus pandemic should not be charged interest on the first £500 of existing overdraft for 90 days. The UK's financial watchdog has proposed. The Financial Conduct Authority has also suggested repayments on loans and credit cards should be frozen for up to 3 months for those in trouble. The FCA said the outbreak had caused an unprecedented financial shock. It is crazy time for investments at this moment in time. Experts suggest that support from banks is patchy. They don't want to risk their stuff as well. Remember, the businesses, they don't want to risk their stuff. So it is a weird one at the minute, because governments are asking banks to be able to do all this stuff, but remember, banks are run as private enterprises with shareholders, so they're not going to want to risk their stuff either, because they're going to have their own shareholders off. So stakeholder influence, again, trying to weigh up the stakeholders, and the government can do a certain amount, but they can't do everything. This is an interesting one. We've been talking about this in class. It says, will jugglers and clowns harvest fruit and veg? The UK is facing a shortage of fruit and vegetable pickers this year. For goodness sake, we've been talking about this for months. We've been talking about this. Why would no one listen? This is what happens when you naff off loads of people in the country, when you send all the people home. It doesn't make sense to do that, because we needed immigration to help us do jobs that lots of people in the UK don't need to do. And now we're bloody dealing with the consequences of that. And look at the state. Right, sorry. The UK is facing a shortage of fruit and vegetable pickers this year. And they did say, it's not like farmers and that have been very coy about this. They actually said this months ago. They said this. By the end of April, 29,000 will be needed, and one farmer. We've had inquiries from about 80 people, including the local circus, who have been parked up with nothing else to do. I don't know if it's for jugglers and clowns, but they've said that they've got the staff who can help us. It says the farm would normally directly recruit between 70 and 100 staff, all from Eastern Europe, who work for 10 weeks harvesting asparagus. One reason overseas workers are recruited for these picking roles is that farmers require temporary, flexible workers who will move around the country following the crops. It's often difficult for local people to fill these roles, as they are extremely busy for a short space of time, for example, 2 months to pick apples, with no work for the rest of the year. However, the closing of borders and grounding of aeroplanes because of the coronavirus outbreak has made it difficult for overseas workers. Yeah, that's not the issue, is it? That's not the issue. That's not going to be the issue. This is going to be a massive issue going forward, isn't it? Do you really want to do that? Do you watching? Do you want to go on the fields and pick berries and pick bananas? Is that what you would do? Well, you can't. You can't pick bananas even if you wanted to, because they don't grow in this country. So that. Of those, I would think 70% is parents offering their sons and daughters who are home from college and university to come and work. Travel problems are not only affecting overseas workers, there are also issues with getting hold of imported fruit and vegetables we grow across the world. We'll get used to not doing. Sorry, I'm fuming about this still. It's just insane. As I said, this Brexit thing is going to blow up in our faces very soon. It's still going on, mind. Oh, goodness me. It says here, he added that imports from Spain were taking twice as long to transport because restrictions meant trucks can only have one driver instead of the usual two. Yeah, we'll get used to it, mate, because this is the tip of the iceberg. BA set to suspend 36,000 staff amid virus crisis. Let's have a look at this one. 34 minutes ago, brand new information. British Airways is expected to announce that it will suspend around 36,000 staff. The airline, which grounded much of its fleet due to the coronavirus crisis, has been negotiating with the Unite Union for more than a week. The agreement means that 80% of the cabin crew, ground staff, engineers and those working at head office will see their jobs suspended, with no staff are expected to be made redundant. This is an interesting one because we've been talking about redundancies a little bit. With a couple of different friends of mine who are in different industries, and it is a genuine threat. We know as business owners ourselves, don't we? As business analysts ourselves, we know the importance of maintaining cash flow, and we know the importance of keeping revenue flowing. And at the minute, we just haven't got any revenue. It's insane. We're just not. It's not coming in. So what do we do? Do we retrench? Do we get rid of loads of staff? Well, what else do we do? I know the government are trying to come in with this 80% thing, but we're living in crazy times. It's difficult to really justify what's going on with this one, isn't it? So it says Oh, this is an interesting one. It says staff typically make up about 40% of an airline's costs, and BA should be able to reclaim 80% of the wages from the government. I mean, another one, 80% of this. What are we going to do on the other side of this? Someone's going to have to pay for this. We're paying these companies 80%, 80%. It shows how little cash in reality that these companies actually have, doesn't it? Virgin Atlantic, however, continues to press and has written to MPs pointing out that it provides the only British flagged competition to British Airways on many key routes from Heathrow. So far, the Chancellor has taken a hard line, saying airlines should exhaust all financial revenues before turning to the taxpayer. If Virgin does take a formal application for more aid, it will have to show that it has met the Chancellor's test. It's a good point. Companies are not wanting to do this. Let's do one more before we call it for today. Universal credit claims soared to nearly 1 million. M&S staff get bonus for coming into work. What's this one? Hard-pressed supermarket workers are being handed thank you bonuses by bosses. Marks & Spencer is the latest chain to reward workers with an extra 15% pay. Aldi, Sainsbury's and Tesco have already promised staff an extra 10%, while Asda will give its staff an extra week's pay in June, which works out as 25% bonus for the month. Bosses say they are rewarding dedication and commitment and outstanding work. It's been an extraordinary couple of weeks, and despite the enormous challenges, I'll tell you what. So, business analysts out there, my students of the world, what do you think's happening? Do you think they're giving them bonuses because of that? Do you think that these companies are just being good? Or let's put Ryan's cynical hat on and actually think of what's going on here. I'll tell you why they're able to do that is because they're making an absolute fortune. Do you remember we read the other day that these companies are making more in the previous weeks than they did at Christmas? And Christmas is a highlight of the year for these. Talk about seasonality. They weren't expecting this kind of money. You know, and for the foreseeable future, if you're going to invest in anything, invest in bloody supermarkets at the minute. They're doing absolutely amazing. I think this is a negative. This is a positive and negative thing, isn't it? It's great that they're trying to reward people for coming in, putting their lives on the line, but people are dying. And is it really sensible to be trying to get people? I mean, I don't know. I suppose they're not trying to encourage people who are, going to be, really at risk to do this. But you don't know. People have died of all ages. Is it really good? I mean, would it be, oh yeah, well we got an extra 15% wage, but now I'm in casualty? I don't know. As I said, it's a strange situation that we're in. But it says Co-op, Waitrose, M&S. What about workers who fall ill? The supermarkets have mostly announced plans to support staff who contract the virus. We've committed to supporting the colleagues that have been identified by the government as needing to self-isolate for 12 weeks, ensuring the colleagues receive full pay for their isolation period. That's interesting for the isolation period. Yeah, the isolation period is probably 2 weeks, not 12 weeks. The supermarket is also offering 12 weeks fully paid leave for those over the age of 70 or who are pregnant or classed as vulnerable, as well as carers, those extremely vulnerable people. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm just dead cynical of these things, and I'm always thinking about these. I worked in other sectors getting bonuses, Compass employees, Compass Group, for example, supporting the NHS. I've got a friend who works on phones. He deals with the IT systems for things like supermarkets and things like that. He's not getting bonuses. I mean, he's working from home, but he is still doing it. He should get a bonus. We should all be getting bonuses. I should definitely be given a bonus, I think, for the quality that I am doing every day. Anyway, ladies and gents, let's hold it there. So I'm sorry if it's been a bit bitty today for you. I'm sorry if it's been a bit up and down in terms of, understanding what I'm saying. But hopefully, if mirrored with the book, it would make a lot more sense. So hopefully tomorrow we will be back to our normal selves. All right. So I hope you have a good one. Keep keeping on. Make sure you're keeping yourself fit, making sure that you're eating right, make sure that you're sleeping right, make sure that you're not doing anything, putting yourself in harm's way. And I will see you all at 10 a.m. tomorrow for the Friday megacast. It's no different than any other day. Please remember, though, if you do have any sort of things that you want me to cover or anything like that, just give me a shout and we will sort it. Okay, peace.